everyone, welcome to another Broken Meeple podcast 131, recording the 22nd of March 2026. Yeah, I gotta remember what year it is sometimes. Time is really flying by, and I'm getting older, and I hate it. The birthday's coming up soon, 42. Ugh, God, I can see the wrinkles, I can see the hair going, my body is breaking every time I go to the gym. I hate getting older, I really do. I do not look forward to birthdays anymore, not since my mid-30s have I ever started looking forward to them. But, well, that's life. But yeah, not too bad. It's the end of March. It's starting to get hotter in the UK. I am feeling it. I hate it when it gets hot. Hot is for saunas. Hot is for, baths. Other than that, at most you should be warm. You should never be hot. And unfortunately, global warming being a thing, it is now practically summer temperatures at the end of March. And then when it gets to the summer, it is just tropical weather, and I hate it. So I can only keep cool so much, which is why I'm having to sort of start drinking a few more hydration tablets as well as trying to keep hydrated. So, in order to try and keep myself in a state where I'm not like perpetually tired, so yeah, not the biggest. It's getting warmer, and I wish it didn't. And as far as I can tell, my new office that I'm working at doesn't have air conditioning. I know that. So in the summer, that place is going to be a furnace. So how I'm going to survive there, I don't know. But well, that's just the thing. It's the one thing I miss from the old job: air conditioning. So not having it at the new place is going to be a little problematic, but well, everybody's in the same boat. They're just going to have to put up with the fact that I'll be a fat, sweaty lump at that point. And certainly on that front, I mean, I go to the gym a lot lately. I'm trying to keep the food down. I don't drink a lot of alcohol, and I'm still just not losing any fat. I just can't do it. But I probably might have to just get into a situation where I actually do some solid calorie counting at some point, because that's the only reason why it could be going wrong. So I certainly do enough exercise. But yeah, enough about those little things. What's going on with channel updates? Next week, I'll be at Shake, Battle and Roll, so that convention in Southampton, a nice local one. So by all means, come and say hi if you go to there. So, definitely always turn up for that one for the weekend. Usually Friday late afternoon through to Sunday afternoon is when I'm there. So that should be a good laugh. Nice chance to play with some friends and that. Otherwise, in terms of the channel, yes, there hasn't been a huge amount of content, but then to be honest, not a lot gets released around this period. So it's just what I can get done, and I've been pretty busy focusing on the new job, which incidentally is going very well. I'm enjoying it. The work feels meaningful. The people there are nice. I'm trying to settle in. Obviously, it's a old man trying to fit into a fairly young workforce, but at least I know a friend there who I game with, so there is always that as a, as a backup. But, yeah, like generally I'm liking doing the work there. I'm busy as hell, hence not a huge amount of content, but, it's definitely enjoyable. I'm definitely liking it. So it was a good move in the end of the day. But in terms of the channel, yes, since the last time, there's only 3 videos since the last one. So we got the movie tricks review. So when I was on that trick-taking phase. And speaking of trick-taking, yes, the top 10 trick-taking games list is up. Little disappointed that we're barely scraping 3,000 views, though, after what is now a whole week. Normally, my top 10 lists are a little bit more frugal than that, but I guess trick-taking is just not that popular a topic. So it would be nice to get that shared across the internet and, some viewed by more people, but I guess trick-taking is just a bit of a niche area to go by. But it was still fun to do, so definitely worth it. And on top of that, I recently, just yesterday, put up the Meadow Adventure book expansion review. So, people have told me to give this one a try. I have kind of like, been ho-hum. I wasn't sure if I wanted to, but I've played a bit more Meadow lately, and I thought, what, I'm going to give it a try. Kiender had their closing down sale. I suspect they're probably fully closed by now, rest in peace, Kiender. And I decided to grab the adventure book, quite nice and cheap. But thank you, Patrons, anyway, because obviously this is content that I can look at because the Patrons help support the channel. And I decided to look at it, and I've done a full review on it. So I've gone through all 6 modules. I've ranked them in terms of my favorites and that. It would be nice to get a few more views, because it did take me a while to do that video, and not even getting 1,000 views since yesterday is pretty disappointing. But I thought there'd be more people interested in the adventure book, but I guess it's just long since passed. I mean, it's a expansion that was released quite a while ago, so I guess the buzz for it has died down. But trying to do some content. I can only do so many top 10 lists and things like that. But there is more stuff on the way. There'll be, I certainly, well, one older video, the Lands of Galzir expansion. I do encourage people to go watch that because I'm getting sent the actual full copy by Snowdell Design anytime now. But there's not really much to talk about on it because I already talked about it on my preview video. So by all means, if you're interested in looking up the Dreams and Mysteries expansion, just go find my preview video because that'll tell you all you need to know. Waking Realms are expecting to send me the Lands of Evershade sort of production copy, mass production copy, so that'll be good. We'll have about a month or so to review that one. There is an embargo, so I can only talk about it after a certain point, but that should give me enough time during April to review it if it comes when it expected, and I'm looking forward to giving that a full proper going because I obviously previewed it and I was impressed with what I saw then. I now want to see what I see now. So, has things changed and is it as good as it was then? And also, very kindly, Inside Up Games have got in touch, and I should be getting a prototype copy of Earth Express at some point soon. So that will be something for me to do a preview video on. I don't do them often, but I'm interested in it. I mean, Earth's like my 7th favorite game, and Maxime was very kind to share the video of my top 10 games with Earth on it out on lots of social media. Obviously he's happy that I really like his game, but this is what I like people to do, share my content on the internet and get people watching it. So very much thanks for that. But obviously after all that, they decided to get in touch and ask if I wanted Earth Express, and it's like, okay, I'm a little bit like reserved as to what exactly an Earth Express is going to do, but I'm intrigued, so I definitely want to look at it and give some honest first impressions. And the other thing I've got is, I don't want to pick it up because it's kind of splayed out on my table at the moment, is the new Arkham Horror LCG second edition. So, well, is it second edition? I forget what they're really calling it, but basically the new core set. The second phase, or whatever they're doing for Arkham Horror LCG, is now out. We've got it in the UK, so I grabbed a copy, and actually, hang on, give me a second. There we go. I can grab the rule book. That's good enough. So yeah, this. So this new LCG copyright here. Let me just, there we go. So this one here, I've now got a copy. This is a pretty decent, I mean, I will say first impressions, this rule book's a lot better than the original one was. So, kudos to that. But I'm basically going to do a review of that core set. So I'm going to play it as intended. So yes, I am a player who's already got cards, so these will get added to the card pool, or I might keep them separate purposely just so that I can use this with new players and that, or if I just want a quick game. But I'm playing through the campaign, the free act campaign, as we speak. I've done the first act and I need to do the next two. It's already set up to start act 2 when I'm done with this podcast. But I'm going to play through the whole campaign as intended from a new player standpoint. So the only thing in that box is what is in the box already. I'm using the starter decks as they've been designed. Although I'm not going to be able to use all 5 starter decks, I can only use so many playing solo, but, I can multi-hand and I can certainly play through multiple acts and try them out, but I'm more just trying to give an idea of the campaign. Is it fun? Does the starter deck I use work? And more point, is this a good starting point for new players? That's what I'm trying to kind of get across there. So I will do an expansion review for that. But other than that, there's just not a lot. I mean, there isn't really any new games around this time of year. It is bone dry for that sort of thing. You might get the stuff we get from Stonemaier at the start of the year is kind of the main new content because they have a thing about releasing stuff in February, it seems, which is not a bad idea because there's nothing else to play. But even then, all they've done is expansions. So there isn't a lot to review. You get some Kickstarters arrive. It doesn't bother me because I don't really buy a lot on Kickstarter. But so it's just a case of, when there's not many games to review, get some older stuff that people have wanted you to look at. And if you can't do that, then do some top 10 lists. That's pretty much the way. Or do some expansion reviews. But expansion reviews are something I do because the consumer wants them. I feel that they would be useful, but it's not necessarily what gets me a lot of views. So there is that to consider. Hydration tablet, citrus flavored, tastes nice, and hopefully does the job at keeping me going during this podcast. Okay, so yeah, those are channel updates. Other than that, what are we looking at? We're looking at 27,362 subs. Let's keep that going. Let's march towards 30,000. That'll be a good milestone to reach. And yeah, more content on the way. I'm just trying to find content to do. I now, in terms of, videos that have come out, there's, generally been good receipts, although I am starting to get a little bit sick and tired of this whole toxic positivity crowd that's on the internet these days, which is the whole, like, why are you so negative? Me, 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 me. It's like, shut up. I'm getting annoyed with it now because, we're supposed to be reviewers. We're supposed to be critical about stuff. And everybody has opinions, good and bad, about things, okay? But the fact that the internet and the board game community seems to be obsessed with only hearing the good stuff. Like, everything's got to be a peachy rainbow about everything. You can't say anything without a rainbow in the background. It's got to be all happy, it's got to be all positive, it's got to be all, yes, everybody hold hands, let's dance in a circle, dee 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 dee, unicorns jumping over flowers. It's like, it literally feels like that. If you don't make posts on the internet that is like that, or video content like that, I mean, yeah, a bunch of creators are certainly going down that route, and if you don't do that, you get shamed. Everybody thinks you're just being too negative, and it's like, for crying out loud, will you get over yourselves, get off your high unicorn, and accept that people can have negative views about things. Deal with it. I'm not going to change my ways on that front, okay? I am going to review stuff with an open mind, and I'm going to review stuff, positive or negative, if it needs be. If I like it, I'm going to say good things. And I have just done a top 50 list of my favorite games ever, which could honestly be a top 200, really. It's not like I don't like games, okay? But just because I go onto a Facebook post or put up a video or something like that saying negative things about a game does not give you the right to try and, like, belittle my day or, get on my wick about saying, oh, you're too negative, why can't you be nicer like all the other fluffy kittens around? It's like, no, how about you just accept that, people can have different opinions and shut up about it, all right? It's crazy, They sort of come out going, it's like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Well, the reverse is also true. And let's face it, you kind of shoot yourselves in the foot with that argument when when somebody posts something as like a critical viewpoint or a counterpoint, and then you come on going, oh, you're going to be it's like, you could have also just shut up and moved on. So it works both ways, chap. I don't know, but it gets on my wick, and as I say, it's not going to change the way I do this channel. This is what I do, and it's the other channels like Board Game Bollocks do the exact same thing. They have the exact same way of doing things, and I give the guy respect for that. To be perfectly honest in what he says and not take crap from other people. So that's how I am. Deal with it. That's why people watch this channel, and I get told this on a regular basis. That a lot of people who watch this channel watch it because of that. So good on you. Anyway, rant over there. On a positive note, though, I have a new. It's not really a sponsor. I have a new affiliate. I have a new affiliate discount code. So if you look at my descriptions in the videos, and you might have noticed on the start of a couple of videos lately, there is now a buy the same token discount code offered. So just to showcase this, Buy the Same Token are based in Brighton. So they're a UK company, and I have some of their stuff already. So they basically make a few gaming upgrades. These are not cheap. I will stress that now. This is not like a discount accessory provider. This is fairly premium stuff. We're talking acrylics, we're talking decent plastics now, we're talking unusual ideas, and they look great, but it's not cheap. However, I do have a 5% discount code, which combines with other discounts that they do on the website. The code is in the description of my videos, and I get, benefits from them if people buy stuff from their website and use the code. So by all means, you're helping the channel if you support this website. And, I'll be showcasing some stuff from them soon. They've sent me some products, which I'm using with the Arkham Horror game I'm playing. So I'll do a little sort of sponsored video to showcase a few of those and give my opinions. But I have some of their stuff already. So, I mean, the stuff they've sent me recently, they've sent me like some card stands. They sent me some token trays, which I can't get hold of the token trays, unfortunately, because it's buried underneath this laptop. But I can, pick up one of these. So this is like a I'll do a video showcasing this, but this is one of their drawer boxes. So it's basically like a box for holding a deck of cards, so like an LCG or a TCG, but it's a clip-on like lid, so it will stay nice and solid. It's solid plastic. But the thing with this is that the idea is that once you take it out, it folds into like a little standee like this. And what you can now do is you can put the deck of cards here, and it slots in there nicely, but you can't quite see it on the camera. There's not enough light. That's a little bit better. You can kind of see there's like a divot there, like a holder. So this bit is a separate stage, and basically you can put the discard pile in there. So the deck is here, you play with the cards, and then when you've got a discard something, you just shove it in there. It keeps things quite nice and organized and in one place. It's not a bad little idea, but I've been sent a bunch of those and I'm utilizing them with the Arkham Horror game. So I'll do a little sponsored video on that pretty soon. But you may have also noticed, I don't have a lot of their acrylic upgrades because I can only afford so much. But I did upgrade my Star Wars, let's say my Lost Ruins of Arnak has some upgraded compasses and money from them. But the main one I will showcase is Star Wars Outer Rim. Star Wars Outer Rim has these fantastic, as I say, they're not cheap, but yeah, they have got some fantastic like acrylic tokens. So, I've got like the sliders for the reputation tracks. I've got the, debt tokens, but the main thing I've got is the black series for these credit tokens. These are fantastic. I love these things. They really do feel like nice chunky acrylic credits. They look kind of neonish with the etchings that glow a little bit in the light, and they feel like I'm chucking around space credits, like I say, not cheap. If you're buying a full set of these, it's going to cost you a load, and you've got half sets as well, but the discount code is going to give you a sizable amount on there. So, I would use the discount if you're going to buy anything from them. But it's, these are really nice for a game that I really enjoy. Like, this is definitely for games you really enjoy. Don't just buy them willy-nilly. If this is one of your favorite games ever, Star Wars Outer Rim, then by all means get upgrades and really pimp it out. But, this is a selection of what they've got, and they've got other board games mentioned. I mean, they've even got some I guess they haven't got anything for Star Trek Captain's Chair yet, but in this collection yet. Okay, so they're going to do some stuff for Star Trek Captain's Chair. It's not a game I own anymore, but, there's a niche group of people that are, like, mad about it. So there'll be some upgrades in the future then, so maybe I'll be able to showcase some of that in the future. But anyway, it's a new affiliate. It's good to have a new affiliate because, a lot of my other previous affiliates have kind of dried up or stopped trading or doing stuff. And obviously the loss of Kiender is a hit for the channel, but it's not a, debilitating hit. It's just a pretty a sizable hit. So it's nice to have somebody else willing to get on board and help sponsor. And so, yeah, by all means, buy the same token, free shipping over 30 quid, free shipping on EU orders over 120 quid, £150 if you're looking at worldwide orders. So there is free shipping options, and 5% discount could be pretty good for you. So by all means, get in touch with them if you want to pimp up one of your games. Look in the description for this video on YouTube and the last couple of videos I did for the code. Support them, support the channel. So thank you very much for that little advert there. Next up, all right, let's talk about a game I've played. So I played this literally on Friday. So this is quite a recent one. This is Wildcatters. Now, occasionally I do like to step out of my comfort zone and play a game that I'm not used to, or is a theme that I wouldn't go near, a cover that I would dismiss, So this is one of those which I saw my friends playing at HandyCon, and I was intrigued. I knew that this might not be a game for me, but I wanted to try it, so I asked them if they would teach another game of it. It's apparently only good at 4 players, so the fact that 4 of us were willing to play it was good, so they could get it to the table. But this is a game about discovering, producing, and selling oil in the 19th century. It's an oil drilling logistics game. How much do I not want to go to dinner with anybody who's a fan of that genre? Okay, so this is not a theme that I would have given a crap about. I mean, oh great, you know my thoughts on Barrage, you know my thoughts on Brass. Yeah, this isn't a game that I was expecting to sing the praises about, but I wanted to try it. 2013, an oldish game, not much of a looker. But basically in this one, you have different sections of the world. You have cards, in which I think this is an old version of the game. I'm pretty sure there's a newer version that my friends had, which looked a little bit nicer than this. I don't know, but maybe it was like a second edition reprint. But the idea is that you have these... Try and get... this is better. This is what I want. So... You have sections of the world, and yeah, he had wooden tokens in his, and a bunch of stuff like that rather than cardboard. So maybe he's got a deluxe version. But you basically drill these rigs into different areas of the world. They produce oil, and then via trains and boats and the like, you basically transport this oil to refineries, which effectively drop it into these area control slots on the bottom of the board. So like there's a refinery there, so that refinery holds some oil, and eventually they'll empty. And if I can see the bottom of the board, got these pictures around them. Here we go. So the bottom of the board has got these different areas like South America, Africa, Australia, that thing. And once they empty out the refinery, they go into these bits, and then it's area control for victory points at the end of the game. You effectively have several currencies. You have worker cards, which basically just allow you to do actions. Everything's got an action cost, so they could have been cubes, whatever. It's not real workers. And you've got shares of your color and other people's colors, which basically the ones of your color get paid for certain things, and the ones from opposing players get used for other things, just not as useful as your own. And it's a very interactive game. So when you drill in an area, other people can sort of hop in by giving you some shares and sort of utilizing your infrastructure. People can give you shares to utilize your trains and your boats, and you've got to give them shares if they deliver oil to your refinery. So there's definitely a heavy interaction element to this game. Some positive, some negative. I mean, it's not quite as mean as something as Barrage, but it's definitely on the mean side. But there is some positive interaction because you can buddy up with people at times to look, I'm going to drill this area, gets me a benefit, you're also going to get something here. So there's but kind of maybe like a Terra Mystica type buddy system where you're getting something more out of the deal than they are, but you are helping them to some degree. And that's kind of the way it works. Your turn sequence involves you doing your entire term, more on that in a bit later, but the action cards that you grab from the side of the board dictate where you can do stuff. So I'm trying to find an example of them. And yeah, this is... wait a minute. This is the deluxe set, I think. Oh, no. No, it's got the deluxe trains, but it's still got cardboard things. I don't know what selection version he had then. But I'm trying to find the location cards, but I'm sort of struggling to find them. Oh yeah, they've got this like this must be an old copy, but you know, they've got these location cards where you select one at the start of your turn, gives you a little bonus, and depending which one you picked, determines where you can do actions in the game. So there's definitely a lot to think about. It's a long game. Oh, kitty in the box. It's definitely a long game. I mean, let's go over some pros first, actually, before we get into the cons. It's definitely a thinky game. You need to really think about what it is you're doing. You need to, you know, take note of opportunities as they arise. Like, oh, this is built up now. If I hop into this area, I might be able to get some benefit here, you know. And you are definitely seeking like, oh, I could nab a little area opportunity bit there. I could stick some stuff in that guy's refinery and get some of his color shares there because you can trade them in for points. And it's definitely got a heavy thinky side. It's a heavy game for sure. This is not anything less than a heavy game. The rules aren't terribly complicated. There are a few little fiddly bits here and there, but for the most part, I thought, this isn't too hard to learn. You know, for somebody who's already a seasoned Eurogamer, they'll pick this up relatively quickly. The scoring's pretty tight. I mean, we finished with less than 100 points, which is a good... I think 75 to 125 is like a really good benchmark for scores in games. Low scoring can be good, but it can be a little bit too tight at that point. And scores which go into like the 300-400s just get ridiculous. I hate point inflation, and yes, I know games like Earth, for example, have point inflation. It's not my favorite thing about Earth game, okay? I do wish it had less point inflation, but, you know, so I think 75 to 125 is like a really good benchmark. And we finished with just under 100 points. So each point is 100 of your score. That's pretty good going. And we finished our tiebreaker, and it was, fairly close. I couldn't call the victor. I mean, I won it in the end, but I don't know how. So I was like really shocked by that. So, it's got some good bits to it. However, here's some of the negatives. Firstly, somebody on this website Board Game Geek, which is not exactly known for having the most accurate of information in the world, it at least realizes that the community says it's best with 4, because I think you have some dummy player nonsense when you have less than 4, so people basically only play this at 4. It's got a high weight level, 3.98. That's actually relatively accurate. But here's where it's phenomenally inaccurate. 120 minutes of playing time, and it doesn't even give a range. Oh, sod off, this is 120 minutes of playing time. Ignoring the teach and the setup, which is already a good 30 minutes, you're playing this for a good 4+ hours. You're probably at minimum playing this for 3 hours. No way are you playing this in 2. Not a chance. You have to play 7 rounds in a 4-player game, which takes a fair while to get through 7 rounds, right? They all play out pretty much the same, with a little bit of an additional stuff in the last round, so more time there. But you have to go through your whole turn of actions before the next player takes their turn. So you've got to go through taking the area card, getting a bonus, thinking about what it is you're going to be doing for the action points that you've got, effectively the workers. Then once you've decided what you're going to do, you've got to then resolve all those actions. A drilling action might involve other players briefly, but it might not. But you've got to resolve all of that, and then you've got to move your tanker somewhere useful, and then you've got to buy consolidation chips, the point tokens, and then you've got empty refineries and get shares for that. It's ridiculous. It's that old problem that Takao used to have, where it gave you a bunch of action points and you have to spend them all before the next player takes their turn. This is a design faux pas that should have been ironed out years ago. And I know this game originated in 2013, but I'm pretty sure even in 2013 we got past this faux pas by then. This is like an early 2000s thing that should have been ironed out. And it just makes turns drag forever. And man, the downtime is horrific. I was able to, check other stuff on my phone between turns. Honestly, I reckon I could have played something on Board Game Arena in between my turns, Arc Nova or something like that, because this was just dragging like crazy. I thought, I am maybe invested for about 45 minutes of this 4-hour game. Am I invested, with what's going on and stuff like that? So it way too long. This is not a 2-hour game. You will be playing this for hours, and the only way you could physically get this in 2 hours is if people don't think about their turns and just go with it, and they're super fast. I mean, you would have to be super fast, but this generates a lot of AP because every move you do is critical, and that's one of the positives of this game. Every move matters, but, well, to an extent, you could have a turn that just sucks for the sake of sucking, but you can't just willy-nilly go through your turns. You've got to think about what you're doing, and some information you won't know until it's your turn. The board state will change in 3 people's turns, so it's not like you can plan that far ahead. And this is not helped by the location cards, because you'll get a new one revealed before it's your turn, and that new location card might force you to rethink your entire turn. It's just so prone to AP, and it's way, way too long to justify it in any way. So that negative aside, what other negatives are there? Well, I mentioned that this is pretty mean. We're not talking barrage levels of mean. That would be a little bit insane, but it's still pretty mean. I mean, you can stitch people up by forcing them to take loans, by them not having enough shares to give you. You can, sort of put trains down on their area so they're not paying you shares. You can put oil on their boat and send it somewhere else. You can, usurp people in area control. It's pretty mean. There's some positive interaction, don't get me wrong, but there's probably more mean interaction than there is positive in this game, so there's definitely that kind of issue there. There's a refinery token, which lets you, unload refineries early. That bonus allows you to do it again on certain location cards. That bonus is infinitely more powerful than the other bonuses you get, like a couple of shares here, a couple of workers there. But being able to reflip that token is fundamentally more powerful than anything else. And I kid you not, that's how I won the game. Because I finished on a tiebreaker, but the only reason I did is because on my last turn, when I couldn't do anything that useful, a location card came off the deck that had not only the right location, but that bonus. If that combination didn't come up, I would have been third, maybe even last. So it's a hollow victory to win on basically a lucky die roll. For a 4-hour game, that element of randomness is not a good thing. And these location cards, what the hell are these boats? These are horrible. Some of these pimped theirs up in a bad way there. But these location cards are, a problem in themselves. Because one of the worst aspects of Brass is those cards that you use. I don't like the card play in brass because you basically are glued to whatever those location cards are. Like if you want to do something, you know you need to build this cotton mill in this location. If you don't do it, you're going to get screwed. Da da da. You can't though because you don't conveniently have the cards to do it. And doing the whole mitigation thing of getting rid of so many cards to be able to do a wild may screw you up in other ways. But if I'm having to do mitigation and someone else isn't, they're doing naturally better. That's just the way it is. And Capstone Game Edition. This one looks like the one my friend had. Yes. Okay, so 2017. So 2017 they reprinted the Capstone Games version to make it a little bit nicer to look at. But it still looks like every other beige game, doesn't it? It's not exactly a looker here. There's no artwork really to say at all, really, in this game. It is very bland. But this is actually not too dissimilar from the way our game went, actually. Shanghai didn't get any activity, but Siberia was certainly getting a lot of attention, but not for me. I avoided it and focused on South America and America. I had a big network going through both continents, where I could basically start at the bottom and work my way all the way to the top. It was an interesting idea. But what was I saying? Yes, the location cards. So you know that you need to drill in this location. You know you need to build there. You know you need to do something then. And the location card doesn't come up in the display. You can refresh the display, but it costs you 4 victory points. Not shares, not workers, 4 victory points. That is dumb. Now, if it said spend shares, that would be fine. That would be an instant fix because you can get shares. And you may, like me at the end of the game, have so many shares, you don't know what to do with them, and you're just wasting it at that point. But 4 victory points. I said we finished on less than 100. So that's basically 5% of your victory point score, practically, possibly more so, to refresh the display, to get the location card you need. And you're not even guaranteed to get the location card at that point. That is just far too punishing to have that. That is a random nature in a game that takes like 3 to 4 hours. And, you know, and that can mess up other players because I mentioned the AP factor is crazy in this. Imagine if you spent ages planning your turn and you know that you need this location. Great. Right, I've got my turn sorted. It's fine. Player before you then refreshes the entire display and your location doesn't turn up anymore. Now what? You've had no time. All that planning you've just done out the window means nothing anymore. That is not good game design. Okay, that is a terrible way to design mitigation and, like, you know, avoid AP. Any other problems with this game? Because there are a few. I mean, the mechanics themselves are not that interesting. I mean, you pop oil on the board, move it along trains, put it on a boat, stick it on some area control, and the area control is like a pretty bare boat. Well, it's fundamentally important. I mean, it is the main way you get points in this game. You know, the points you actually gain by other means actually is dwarfed by what you get from the area control, which makes the area control like fundamentally more important. You've got these Wildcatter tokens that you can bid on, like a weird little auction phase, and if you win them, great. You get a lot of them, they can be worth points, and that's the only way that my tiebreaker friend managed to make a comeback is because he had a bunch of those. But he'd also taken out 3 to 4 loans during the game, so it was only... I don't know how the hell he managed to pull it back to get to tied first place with me, but kudos. But it is at least proof, because I had a loan as well, but I got a loan because I got stitched up by a friend. I made a rules error, accidentally revealed that I had no more of my shares left, and so I got stitched up as a result, which I found, again, very mean and punishing in this game. But yeah, so... what was I saying? Yeah, he made a comeback with loans and, you know, all well and good. But the area control bit is what gets you the points. And if you don't do well on the area majority thing, you won't win this game, frankly. But it's very hard to tell whether a turn you do is even lucrative. Because you might be doing a turn, and I have no idea if it was a good idea. Did I just help the opponent more? Did I gain any points out of that? I don't know, because you don't earn a lot of the points during the game. If any. I don't think you earn any points during the game. So I don't know if what I'm doing is a good idea or not. And that's not a good feeling to have when you go through the motions and you just feel like you're just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff, but it doesn't feel like it's translating into anything lucrative and worthwhile. You know, it leaves you just sort of aimless. And a lot of this game feels very aimless. And it's just not a great feeling. So... by the time I was done with this, I was a little deflated. I wasn't expecting great stuff from this game. It's not my type of game. I mean, you mentioned shares, trains, oil shipping. This is all stuff I can't stand. So of course it's not going to be a game I particularly like. But I respect some elements of it. I would rather play this over Brass and Barrage in terms of its mechanics. I mean, I don't like those two games more than this one. But this one is still too long. At least Brass is shorter, and Barrage is not too much shorter, but it's still shorter. This one just drags on too long, far too much downtime, 4 hours of play, and it's just not that particularly interesting. It's okay, but it's nothing to shout home about. It's ranked 1700. It's not bad for BGG, but it's not amazing. It is what it is. I mean, there's going to be people who like this, but I think having a 3 to 4 hour time limit being really fixed at only being for 4 players, being quite mean, some imbalances here, some random elements that shouldn't be in the game, some very bizarre design choices. It's not a game that I'm going to seek out again. I don't think I'll want to play this again. I don't hate it, but I think it's kind of like for me, probably a 4 out of 10. 5 out of 10, absolute max. But probably more, somewhere 5 and 4. We're talking average, below average game. That length really does hurt it, though. I feel like I could play much more interesting games during that time. I'm thinking 4 out of 10. Below average game. It's not for me, obviously. I ventured out of my comfort zone. I was glad to try it, but I like to try a new game every now and again. But this one just didn't work out. So Wildcatters, not for me. All right, okay, so let's get on with the topic in hand. So we're already at 38 minutes. Wow. I guess I had a lot to say about that one. But I just want to talk about, we mentioned about player interaction in that game, actually. So this is going to, whoa, not the desk there. So we talked about player interaction, and it's kind of like, when does player interaction become more frustrating than it is a good thing? Because I mention about player interaction a lot. I tend to like player interaction in games, but there's certain types of interaction, and there are different ways to view it, and everybody's got a different opinion as to what counts as interaction in games. So it does get brought up a lot, and people like to sort of, when the trolls come in trying to find any excuse to demean my opinion or something, one of their classic defenses will be trying to say, well, you like this game, it doesn't have much of this or something. And it's like, it's not set in stone, you cretin. It's like, this can, you can vary things a bit. But, it's not like you can compare like for like. A lot of these games are oranges and lemons, or apples and oranges. It's not two of the same kind. You can't always make direct comparisons. But what type of interaction have we got so far? So you've got positive and negative. So positive being that when you do something, everybody else gets a little prize. Space Base is a classic one of that. So if I try to bring up some of these games that I'm talking about, Space Base is a classic example of positive interaction. So you're doing your own thing with your ships, and people can buy ships that you want in that. But when you are throwing the dice in this game, what you roll could reward other people. So there's that level of interaction. And this is what kind of keeps the downtime to a lower degree in Space Base. I mean, yeah, you want time to roll, trigger all your really cool effects and buy cards, but you are still doing a little bit of something on other people's turns. And so what you do will influence them to some degree. You've also got a classic, negotiation game where you are going to be involved in a lot of interaction. So let's take one of my favorites of all time, Hegemony. Hegemony is a fully interactive game. I mean, you cannot not be interactive in this. You've got to negotiate with other players. What you do is going to impact the other three. You're going to be using other people's workers. You're going to be using the state's cash. You're going to be voting on policies to influence the entire game state. This is like a full-on interactive fest. You cannot get much more interactive than this. And some of it's going to be positive and negative. It has an element of the two, but this is one where you're always engaged. You even if it's not your turn, you want to know what they're doing, because it's going to directly impact you, and you might be able to impact what they're doing just by talking to them. So this is like the type of interaction I love. I like negotiation games. I like this type of thing, which is why Hegemony just sort of works for me. But then it could be another good example of some interactive games. Architects of the West Kingdom. Architects of the West Kingdom is, for the most part, you're building up your own buildings, you're getting your own resources, and you don't block each other out of spaces per se, but you have the mechanic where you arrest people and you shove them in the prison. So they come out of this town and then go onto the prison, and you get money for dumping your opposing people in prison, but they can always get them back out, and they're doing it to you as well. So, that bit of interaction, positive and negative, comes back and forth. It's equal opportunity smacking in that game. But it means that the game, isn't just simply get resources, do my own thing, build buildings, don't care what the other players are doing. No, the other players are going to influence what you do to some extent, and you can mess with each other a little bit. So, there's some cool parts there. But there's definitely a point where it can get a little frustrating. And, one of those, the sort of comparison you could make is the idea of structure versus chaos. So you have interaction where now and again something happens that does involve other players. Or in my case, I also like interaction where I actually care about what the other players are doing. I might not be able to directly influence what they do, but what they are doing has a proper impact on the game state and what I'm doing. And I'll give some examples. Well, Cascadia is a good example. So with Cascadia, you don't do anything that affects somebody else's board. That's, a given, okay? But you've got the scoring for the areas that you do. So when you build the tiles, you are interested in the areas and getting them grouped up because that's worth points. I don't influence other people's areas, but I am constantly looking at the other players, seeing what areas they're winning on, who's got the most in that color, who's got the most in that color, and who am I competing with. So when they take tiles and start influencing that, I have to think about what tiles I take for that reason as well. I don't just take it because, it groups up with this terrain nicely. No, I mean, if I'm dominating the forests, I don't need to expand the forest anymore. I need to expand other territories. But is there a limit to how much I do that? Like, if I know I'm getting absolutely screwed on mountain terrain, then I don't really care about expanding the mountain terrain because I'm not going to be able to get the bonus points for first and second out of it. So I'm always watching what the other players are doing, but I'm not necessarily directly impacting them. Or directly influencing, I think is the case. Yes, what they do will impact which choice of tile I might take, but they don't come over to my board and nick a tile or steal a bear or something like that. So that kind of interaction I'm fine with, and people love to bring up my Ark Nova and Earth, for example, for that. Now, Earth is not a particularly interactive game, though I will argue that the expansion has helped to improve that a little bit because you are giving other players sprout cubes, you've got abilities that are now based on what your neighbors are doing, so they have done something to help that. And certainly it's got some positive interaction in the sense that when somebody picks an action, everybody else is getting to trigger stuff, and you can see what abilities they've got. If I'm going to trigger blue, and I can see not many other people have got blue abilities, and I'm like, okay, that might influence why I do blue. But then I'm also thinking, well, I do need soil. That means I probably need to take red. But then if I take red, person next to me is going to be triggering a million abilities because they've got loads of red cards. And so, there is an element of caring what the other players are doing, even though I don't directly, come over and burn your trees down or anything like that. So it's got some cool elements there. And Ark Nova, the classic one where everybody likes to get on my case on the interactivity argument, and I'm not going to say, you're wrong. I mean, Ark Nova is not the most interactive game in the world. There's not a lot of interaction in it at all, really. But I am interested in what the other players are doing. These green projects that you got a gun for, it is important to know who's gunning for these. So I need to know whether my opponent is likely to nab herbivores off me. I need to see what my opponent's game state looks like. The game state, they haven't got a lot of money. They're not earning a lot of income. It's going to take them a couple more cards to get Australia. I'm not seeing much in the way of Australian stuff out. So I'm probably safe there for a bit. So maybe I should concentrate on this other aspect. And, they influence the donations. They can influence the card display. They can trigger breaks. So am I ready for a coffee break to trigger? No, I've got too many cards in my hand. I need to get stuff played. What's the likelihood that they will trigger a coffee break, though? They got a bit of money. They could still do stuff. And their sponsor's card is still at least 2 away from when they could trigger a break if I don't influence it. So I've still got a turn in hand. But will they trigger it the second the sponsors get high enough? Or will they wait? That depends. Well, that's it. And like I say, I'm not directly influencing or impacting the other player. But the fact that I'm looking at what they're doing and care about it is relevant. And this is what, works for me on that front. You could play a game of, say, Wingspan is probably a good example of one where the interaction is very low. Yeah, there's occasionally, once between turns, if another player does something, do something. But other than that, as much as I like Wingspan, Wingspan is pretty non-interactive. Okay, this is why it's pointless playing it with 5 players, and even really 4 to an extent. You might as well just play it solo, because, somebody might take a bird you like. Whoopie-doo. Other than that, I don't really change a lot for the other players. The dice and the feeder might change. You can get around that pretty easily. But my birds don't come over and eat your birds. I don't nick your eggs. You get a tiny bit of positive interaction from some cards, but that is literally it. So Wingspan is a pretty non-interactive game. Civilization, the original Sid Meier's one, even some other Civilization games can fall into this trap. If I can find Sid Meier's, there we go. So this Sid Meier's Civilization game, if you actually go to the opponents and try and kill them, then yes, there's a little bit of interaction there. But otherwise, you're pretty much doing your thing in your corner of the globe while everybody else does theirs. It's a race, yes, but you're not really that caring about what they're doing. So they do their own thing. They go kill some bandits. They go build a tech or two. That's kind of it, really. Maybe they might nick a world wonder you like, but that's it. And this is one thing that Eurogamers get confused with as well, because they'll say, oh, this is a really interactive Euro game because you might take the thing I want. That's not enough to be an interactive game, because that would mean every Euro game is interactive. Just because somebody might take the spot you like, somebody might take the card you like, that is not enough by itself to be interactive, okay? You could simulate that with a die roll. Somebody could take a card from this display, which you might want, so therefore it's interactive. No, because they probably have no influence as to caring what you do on your board. So what they're taking is primarily for themselves. They don't really care if it hurts you or not. And even then, you could simulate that with a die roll. You can't simulate proper interactive elements with die rolls. But if it's just a case of, oh, somebody might nick the card you want. Well, okay, I'm going to play this by myself, and on each turn, I'm going to roll a die, and whichever number comes up, that's the card that goes out of the display. A lot of solo modes do this. They will literally just have an AI randomly take out cards that you could potentially buy from. If you can do it with a die roll, how's that interactive? It kind of speaks for itself. Oh, our throat's starting to go there. So there is an element of that. So back to the original point, which was the whole, when does it become frustrating? Well, the structure versus chaos argument is part of it, because structured interactiveness is pretty cool. Like, hegemony feels to me like a structured interactivity, because, yeah, the board state can change quite dramatically, but you're negotiating what happens. You can kind of see what that might take place, and you're prepared a little bit for that. It's not just, oh, the interactive completely can screw you over, or suddenly make things like vie completely out of control. And there are some games, Barrage is a very interactive game. Okay, so I'm not going to deny that Barrage is not multiplayer solitaire. You are up in each other's faces. You are constantly opting for trying to control these different dam sites and generate electricity and bits and bobs. I just cannot stand this game with a passion. It is one of my hated games ever, because in the first turn somebody could just jump on your area and start screwing over your area and just basically getting in your face. There is so much opportunity for you to be a dick to other players in this, and you can't always see it coming, because you're trying to sort out your own bit and get your own infrastructure going, and then somebody comes along and just happens to go bleh and screw over your economy, and it throws you for a loop. You're unable to respond to that, and you don't expect it. So that to me feels like more chaotic interaction, where somebody can literally just throw a you're there trying to do something nice and careful, and then somebody build a nice steady house of cards, and somebody comes in with a sledgehammer and just ruins it all for you, and that to me feels more like a chaotic style of interaction. But I think it's just that when does it become frustrating? Positive interaction is never frustrating. You know, if somebody does something and you get a little bonus for it, that's never frustrating ever. I mean, you know, somebody activates a drill site in Wildcatters and you get to join in on the drilling. Okay, cool. I fancy doing that anyway. Earth. People do a space base in Earth. You know, people activate something on their turn, which gets you a little something on your turn. Cool. That's what I fancied. You know, this is all good stuff. Let's take some of the Lacerdas, for example. I think, actually, any of the Lacerdas like that? I suppose not so much. Lacerdas are more that you do something and you get a little bonus. So I guess that only works so much. But then there are some Lacerdas, like I would say Inventions was a bad one for this. I could also say some extent Weather Machine, but I think more Inventions. I'm hearing that Speakeasy is not the most interactive game ever, but Inventions definitely didn't feel very interactive at all. And Escape Plan didn't feel that interactive either. So, you know, those ones can feel very much like solitaire games, where you're not really caring what the other players are doing. Even Voidfall. Actually, yeah, Voidfall is kind of a good example because, you know, I mean, some people will dispute this and say it's a very interactive game. I'm not convinced by that, okay, you guys, because, I mean, for starters, the best way to play Voidfall is solo, which already says it all, frankly. You know, there are some people who like playing it in groups, but let's be honest, the vast majority of people play this solo, okay? And that is the only way that you will ever catch me playing this game ever again, is in solo. And my review said about it, okay? I said in my review that I was only ever going to play it solo, and I liked it enough solo, but it just does not justify its investment and time and crazy rules learning, so I get why people like it. I just think it's overrated based on what people are saying about it. But interactive? No. No. Because the problem with this game is that you might have a map, specifically a map chosen, where people are quite condensed together. But for the most part, people will generally just attack the NPC stuff. They're not necessarily going out and attacking each other. So there's only so much interaction between people. And if you take out that element, all you're doing is your own thing in your own little base. You know, I play this game pretty much like that because I don't like, you know, in a Euro game that takes forever to basically say, oh, that was nice, all that very nice stuff that you were doing, that you were enjoying. Well, I'm now just about to destroy it all for you. So ha 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 in your face. It's like, that's not fun. That's not what should be in a big, long Euro game. You know, you want that kind of stuff, go play Twilight Imperium or something. But, you know, with this, I play it the races and I play the games where I turtle up in my own little area, I expand out a little bit, deal with the NPC and corruption stuff, but I don't go out and kill other players. You know, I just stick to my end of the galaxy and say, I've got my end of the galaxy, you've got your end of the galaxy. Maybe there might be a map where you might fight over a central bit, but even then, that's only to some extent. For the most part, I'm just going to be like, look, I'm over here doing my thing. You sit there and do your thing. You know, it could be something like this setup here where, you know, I don't know if this is solo or not, but, you know, I could be on this planet here, Earth, and on the 3 hexes around with my cubes here, and I'm like, you know what? I'm cool with that. You've got your orange bit there, I've got my blue bit here. We can all live in harmony. And, you know, for me, Voidfall doesn't feel like an interactive game because nobody else influences what I'm doing there. Unless they actively come and try to conquer my areas, which for the most part they're not going to do because once you've stuck down a few decent defenses, unless they are a massive warmongering faction, they're probably not going to gain that much by attacking your stuff, and they'd probably be better off just attacking the NPCs anyway, that, you know, you can pretty much just do what you like. And so Voidfall for a player to me feels utterly pointless. Hence, I say that the only way to enjoy this game is to play it solo. I will never play a group game of this ever again. It is not worth it. Not that time investment. You know, I don't care what you're doing at your side of the galaxy. It's unimportant. It doesn't influence my side of the galaxy. That's where, you know, a non-interactive game, you know, hurts in that regard. But, you know, I prefer positive interaction to negative interaction for sure. Oh, God, have I just been talking about Voidfall without showing pictures? If so, I apologize, but, you know, can't be said. But it's, I don't get much out of it. It's, you know, I'd rather games with positive interaction than negative. You know, I don't tend to be the one who dicks on other players. You know, I always feel bad. I mean, Wildcatters was a similar thing. People pulled off a pretty douchey move on one player when he made a slight mistake. But then later on, I realized that the best thing to benefit me was to also go and be a douche to that player. And I felt bad because I didn't want to do that. And it's like, you gotta be a mean people talk about me being all negative or something. They're the ones that are playing games where you get to be a dick to other players, and they call me negative. It's like pot kettle black. So it's not what I go for, but it's that sort of thing is the frustrating element. I don't think you can ever be frustrated by positive interaction. It's just not going to happen. You get a little bonus. Maybe the board state changes to something you weren't terribly a fan of, but I don't think it would ever get to the point of being frustrating. But, negative interaction? Oh, definitely. I mean, especially chaotic interaction, where the interaction is just all over the shop, and what one player does might completely destroy everything that you were trying to do. The Wildcatters refreshing of the display I mentioned. I mean, if you're planning 2-3 turns ahead with one card that's there, if someone takes that card, it messes you up. If somebody refreshes the entire display and all you get is crap after that, it completely destroys your game at that point. And that to me is a example of chaotic interaction, not structured interaction, and that would get very frustrating. It almost destroyed my game. Like, if I hadn't have got that lucky card in that refresh, I would have lost the game. Totally lost the game. So only by fluke did I win it. And that sort of thing feels hollow. But, negative interaction where you outright go and screw other players over just to be a douche, that can get pretty frustrating as well if it feels one-sided. If you're all doing it fairly equal opportunity, like a bare bones area control game where you're always constantly at each other's faces, generally it's not too bad. But then I might try to turtle up in other places and just leave others alone to have their own battles. But I played another game recently, which I would say is bordering the kind of, shall we say, bad interaction, Perch, from Inside Up Games. Now, this game's all right. I don't think it's amazing, but this is pure negative interaction. There's no positive interaction in this. I mean, you are basically vying for control over these areas. You are getting in each other's faces. You are actively playing other people's birds on rubbish locations. You are messing them up. You're killing each other off. Nothing in this game is positive interaction. Now, granted, all of you can do this to some extent, but some people are going to be doing it a lot more than others if they get the creature cards and stuff. You could be in a position where you just physically cannot win and pull it back. You're too far gone at that point. And because it constantly feels like it's happening to you, like, I screw you, I screw you, I screw you, I screw you, and you don't feel like you can recover, that's incredibly frustrating. And even though all of you are doing a little bit of that in this game, Perch just frustrates me because the interaction feels horrible. It doesn't feel like a nice game to play, and it looks all cutesy. This is meant to be a nice family-friendly game. It ain't family friendly. I'm sorry, kids will be shouting and crying and arguing over this game. This is not a family game that I would stick in front. I would not stick this in front of a family. No way. Take another drink. So it's, and obviously I haven't really glossed. I've kind of not mentioned stuff like roles and rights and co-ops. I mean, co-op is interactive because you're helping each other. That's just normal. They're fun games for a reason. Roll and writes are pretty much 99% of the time never interactive. There's one or two times, like with some dice drafting versions, where you might care what other people are doing, so you take a bit of die. Harvest Dice is a particularly good example of a semi-interactive roll and write, but most roll and writes you don't give a crap. I mean, Next London, those Next games, I like those games. They're great little roll and writes, roll and moves, or flip and writes, or whatever you want to call them. But I don't care what anybody else is doing on their train network. I'm solely concerned with mine, so it's not interactive. But it's simultaneous, so it's not that big a deal. But, conventions used to make such a big deal about, we got this session where we're going to play 90 people in a room and play Welcome To. Who cares? The game's multiplayer solitaire. I don't overly like the game by myself. It doesn't matter when you're playing it with 4. Why would I care if I'm playing it with 90? It just doesn't make any sense. So, that kind of thing is just not, for me. So, anyway, throat is starting to go, so I think I'll wrap it up there. We're at that was conveniently at the hour mark. So it's, or from my perspective anyway, maybe give or take some breaks. But, yeah, so interaction, I like it in games. But obviously, like most people, I prefer positive interaction. Oh yeah, Luke's too negative. Yeah, I like positive interaction, guys, more than I like negative. And that will never be frustrating. So, I want the board state to evolve based on all the players. Whistle Mountain, perfect example of that. That board state influences entirely on what people are doing. In fact, yeah, that was a better example I should have mentioned earlier, actually. Whistle Mountain is a perfect example of interaction done right. Because, yes, you could block each other, you could build inefficiently, you could take a worker before somebody else does, but the board state evolves based on all the players. So there is a point to having other players in the game because they really influence how this game works. There is an element of positive interaction because somebody might put a space down that suddenly makes something really lucrative and you nab it. But you can get a little bit of negative interaction in this, but not to a crazy extent. And you're kind of prepared for it. So again, structured interaction. Structured positive interaction and negative interaction in Whistle Mountain. This is like the perfect example. Hegemony, positive and negative, fairly structured. Don't like chaotic interaction. Don't like too much negative interaction. And it doesn't have to be that I directly take your stuff and do stuff with it. It's that I care what you're doing. What is your board state? What is your likely next move? I care what that move is. I do not care a lot of the time in some Euro games what you do what you're going to do. I don't really care. That is a non-interactive game, and a lot of Euro games aren't interactive, despite what people try to claim with the whole every Euro game is interactive if you think about it nonsense. So anyway, I'd be interested to get some of your thoughts on that. So I'm going to wrap it up there. So thank you very much for listening. I'll see some of you at Shake, Battle and Roll. You can hopefully check out some other content. By all means, also have a look at Buy the Same Token, see if there's anything you fancy, and use my discount code in the description for 5% discount. You might find it actually adds up to quite a bit. So help them, help the channel as well. But let me know your comments down below, what you think about player interaction. Agree or disagree with the thoughts. It's all good to discuss. And until next time, remember it's only a game, and I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple show. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.